All right, calling the meeting to order and we'll do the roll call. Ron Arsini,
Here,
Nora Buckles not here as yet. Michael Coltman, he's not online to my best of my knowledge. Mark Doxer,
Here.
John Parsons.
Here.
John Sasso, I don't see either, but
I wonder who MA is.
yeah, I have no idea.
Ma?
And John O'Neill present. So we do have a quorum. We just have a quorum. And we know Jenna's getting us what we submitted to her. So just to refresh, except for Ron, do you have your copy or in front of you?
I have my copy in front of me, yep.
Okay, that's good. While we're waiting for her to come back, we had a gentleman from Oakland Road area. Wanted
Yes.
to talk, introduce yourself.
Yes, nice to meet you. I'm Daniel Park. I live in 23 Grandview Road. I'd like to maybe share my thoughts, maybe 5 minutes max,
Max.
if that's allowed.
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah, if you can give me go see sign, I'll go for it. Yeah. Can I?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so maybe maybe you can take a look at the monitor. I prepare a couple of presentation. So trees and schools, what I'm trying to share is trees and forests provide wealth of environment, especially to schools. What I'm trying to highlight here is improve air quality from trees and carbon dioxide that will be, absorbed by trees, and also provide improve human physical and mental health. And I would like to highlight 3 things today, highlighted in red color. Start from improve human physical and mental health, which is from Pennsylvania State University studies and University of Illinois. You'll see that there's thousands of more studies in Google, but from 2023 February 17th report, you'll see that trees with a green color with an environment that will reduce symptoms of attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, which is also known as ADHD. And also a study from University of Illinois shows that study of a public high school students found consistency of improvement in student behavior and performance. And presents nature just even show the views of the green trees help student recovery from mental stress. And Reading town is one of the best small, medium-sized city in America, which is 25th ranked from whole country from 1,300 US cities, population from 25K to 100K, report from 2023, October 3rd, we were 25th. And as you can see from education and health and safety point of view, we're high rate, which is the second in the education and health. But if we cut down whole trees in the Oakland Road, that will give impact to high school students as well. And those are something, of course, my opinion, which is, I'm thinking group of trees we call forest, like one in the Birch Meadow, one in the Coolidge, one in the Reading Memorial, right next to Reading Memorial, which is Oakland Road. I'm thinking that's some kind of like they're acting like a lungs for that area, for that schools. Like for example, like yesterday we had a track competition or tournament yesterday happened in Reading High School, but all the students from outside town were using bus transportation, and bus drivers, they park the car in the parking lot, but some of drivers don't turn off their engines because it's cold. They keep the heater by engine on. So then how that CO2 goes, those are trees or group of that trees will absorb all the CO2s in that area. That's what I'm thinking. And we have a Grandview Road extension project going on, and we chop down those red color highlighted area. Only chop down that area because, as we can see right here, there is flooding going on already started. that's warning from Oakland Road trees. And if I magnify a little bit more, those are the area flooded, started. And I don't know who or which department we have to claim or issue that cause, but flooding already started, but I only chopped down that only small portion of the trees. And that was never like that before, and that's a new flooding after Grandview Road Extension project started. But if we cut down more trees on Oakland Road side area, I don't think, will matter better situation or make it more worse situation if we chop down more trees on the on Oakland Road group of trees. I'm not against senior center is not necessary. We do need a senior center for sure. But as the professor and climate team in MIT already mentioned, and they obviously mentioned that from various of the media, we should not only plant more trees. Every year we do the replanting the trees, we have activities going on every year. We plant a tree, but also put much more effort into protecting existing forest, which is right next to Reading High School that absorb all the CO2 from commuting time or maybe sports activity going on. There's a school bus, all the parents using the cars and they park there, but if it's cold, they turn on the engine. We do have a sign, not idling, do not idling, but actually no one actually take care of that sign. So I'm for, we do need a senior center for sure, yes, but not next to Oakland Road, chopping down whole trees. That's the only group of trees that next to high school. That's what I'm trying to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Yes.
for the presentation.
Yeah.
And Ron, note that John Sasso is here now.
I saw him. Thank you. And by the way, we couldn't see the presentation on the Zoom, so.
Okay,
Oh, sorry about that.
yeah.
It's a good presentation.
Yes, it was very.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great topic. Thank you for the feedback. It was awesome.
Okay, so entertain the motion to accept the minutes of the 2 March, well, there was a meeting of Recalc in March, then there was a joint meeting between Recalc and COA in March, and then,
Two different sets.
yes, we had,
Okay.
Sorry, the one I haven't.
and then we had our meeting just a week ago.
Oh, sorry, not enough. It's not in the packet there, huh? Did I miss it? No, it's not in my packet.
It's in I think it's in the email.
Yeah, there was an email.
Okay, let's go to the email.
Here's the April 3rd, if somebody needs that.
So, sorry, this 313, 327, 43?
Yes,
Yeah.
327 was the joint meeting. 313 and then 3. So let's take them one at a time. So the first was the 13th, I believe, of March. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes dated March, for the March 13th, 2024 recalc committee meeting.
Second.
Second. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Since it's a hybrid meeting, we have to poll the members. Ron Assini,
Yes,
John Parsons.
Yes.
John Sasso,
Yes,
Mark Doxer,
Yes.
John O'Neill, yes. Nora Bucko, I'm assuming is not on. And I don't see Michael's name up there either, Michael Coleman. So, okay. So it passed. So I'll entertain a motion now to accept the recalc. For recalc purposes, obviously COA has to do their own, but for the March 27th joint meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any additions, corrections?
Just a question, so
Mhm.
with these minutes on the 27th. I know the presentation is online, but so the presentation that was presented by BH&A at this meeting.
Yes.
Are effectively part of the minutes?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Also, there is one correction, I should say. My last name's misspelled.
Really?
In each one of the
I'm so-
minutes. As my father told me when first grade, when I came home with my name card.
Two L, two
He
L,
says, only lazy Irishmen have one L in their name.
two Ls.
You should saw the look on sister's face when I went up to her and told her that. She did not have a great sense of humor, I think. But anyway.
So
Okay.
noted, so adjusted, John.
All right.
Apologize.
And then we'll entertain a motion for the April.
We just did the motion for the 27th, but we didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I got it. Monticini. This is for the
Yes.
27th.
Yes,
John Haas.
Yes.
John Sasso.
Yes.
Mark Doxer.
Yes.
John O'Neill, yes. Okay. Now we'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the April 3rd meeting.
So moved.
This has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any additions, corrections, deletions?
Hold on.
Besides my name? Thank you.
We have-
Seeing none, I'm gonna, Paul Ronacini,
yes,
John Parsons?
Yes.
John Sasso?
Yes.
Mark Doxer?
Yes.
John O'Neill, yes. The minutes are approved. So now we're getting into and I'll toss it to be, what do you think is the best way to proceed? Should we go area by area? Would that be, and discuss what each person did? I gather from what Jenna said, our totals, and I don't know how close they were, but the totals were, the ranking was the same for all 7 members of.
So I guess the first question I just want to ask, not to put anybody on the
Mhm.
spot, did everybody respond?
Yes, everybody from, yes.
Just wanted-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Everybody respond.
okay. Hmm.
I think it would make sense to look at the criteria and then go across each one first and go kind of through the criteria.
So Ron has
Do it in the
his,
same
okay.
way.
And I have yours and Michael's in front of me, so I'll take a look at those, or you want to split it with me, or?
I'm just curious if we haven't had a chance to put this all together. yet.
Right.
Or
No, we don't have a master spreadsheet.
okay, all right, sorry. That's
Yeah, before you
Other
came,
than a
right,
summation,
other than the sum,
yes, we have
Oh.
sums.
okay. All right,
and you said, so it must be that Simon's Way came out first, Oakland Road second, Pleasant Street third?
Yeah,
How close was it?
well, I looked at just everyone's 1, 2, and 3s.
Yeah.
I didn't really dive deep into how close each one was to each other.
Okay,
So maybe that's a good place to start, start at the end with the combined and subjective points. And see how close those
Okay.
actual numbers were.
is that okay? I'm looking at Ron, I'm looking at.
I'm just,
yeah, that's good.
so just the only comment I would make is that before we jump into this,
Yes,
what are we really hoping to get out of this? I want to just think about where do we want to end up?
okay,
And I don't think we're necessarily today saying, well, we're going to end up with a final recommendation of solutions. I
That's
just
a
want to make sure people are clear.
no, that's a
So-
good point.
Okay, all right.
I'll also say to people that Nancy and I have met. Nancy from the Council on Aging for people who are,
Yeah.
and the goal is, we both agree, is to come up with one recommendation. So clearly, we're not gonna be able to do that until they have a chance to talk amongst themselves, and then we have a chance to talk together.
Right.
So that's the way I see it.
So,
This is more to, maybe we can help,
right,
identify areas where we may be helpful to one another, is what I'm hoping. In other words, from the discussions, an area that I may have seen as a significant weakness, somebody may have some information or have an opinion that will help. Because I know each time I did it, it came out a little bit differently.
right. So my only other thought is that I obviously would love to see how it all looks overall.
Mhm.
But I really would like us to spend more time on the kind of the intangibles or the things that people called out as the pros and cons, and so we can look at those a bit. I think I spent the most time on that in writing up my rationale for, okay, well, why did I do X, Y, or Z? So I don't want to lose sight of that. It's okay. We can definitely go through the criteria and look at them piece by piece, but I definitely think that there are, obviously people are going to have a little bit of subjectiveness to that and we can talk about it. But I really would like to get to okay, what did people really think? What were the criteria? What were the pieces that pushed them in one direction or another? And what were the things that they felt were, important enough to raise versus those things that they thought were, either a benefit or a detriment to a particular site?
Right, well, something to that, though. There was the 12 different items for people, that we were evaluating.
Yeah.
And our subjective, our overall, the pros and cons that we wrote in the narrative form, that we only had up to 20 points on that.
Understood.
No, I just, so to clarify that, even though that might have changed, and it did for me, it pushed one ahead of the other.
Mhm.
Those subjective
Right.
kind of things. It may not,
No, I don't necessarily mean that those things are, from a point perspective,
Mhm.
important things. I think they're important to the community.
Yes.
So that people realize, okay, what are all the things that we're taking into consideration? Because there's been other feedback, obviously, that's been received since then, and I expect we'll continue to hear more feedback. And I think it's good for us to collect all that information up and in a way that, because I think in the end, it is going to be, okay, yeah, we can check off little boxes about these individual criteria, but I think we're also going to have the story of, okay, well, this says this, but here's the other underlying pieces that are driving us in one way, shape, or form to a particular site or a particular solution, or for that matter, prohibit us from using a particular site or a particular solution. And those things, I think, those intangibles, those discussion points that we've been writing and other people have been talking about are important to consider. That's all.
no,
Yeah,
sure.
I think that's an and.
It is an and.
Yeah.
It is an and. No. I don't, I guess that's the point. I don't want it to get lost and I do want to make sure we spend some time on it.
How do other people feel as far as which we take first? Should we go to those subjective things to make sure we?
We can do what you suggested is fine. We can go through the numerics of it and kind of talk through each one of these and see what people thought.
Right, because I think, it's going to be important to get to those matters, because I know just getting input from the Oakland Road people did make a difference to me.
Mhm.
As things were still close, because I was trying to go by the point things.
Yep.
But yes, so and by the way, trees are one of the things that I identify, because my wife would, hit me over the head if I didn't pay attention to that aspect of it. Because she's someone who doesn't think anything should be built up there, but we don't always agree, but. Okay, so let's take let's go with the first item. The area of the site. And so people who haven't seen the survey that they probably, was this posted?
That's part of the presentation.
Okay, great. So, we had from 1 to 10. You could give a certain area. And each one was explained differently, because something that would be negative might get a lot of points on a particular thing. as opposed to. I think it'll make more sense as we go along. Also-
Hey, Jenna, is there any opportunity for people who are on, the ones that are not on Recalc, maybe see the spreadsheet so they can see what we're talking about? Is it possible to share the spreadsheet in the Zoom? Is that, would that make sense?
That would be helpful. Because also, besides the points, there was a weighting system.
I actually have to leave though,
So
so
either
someone
there
will have
was
to sit here.
a 1 or a 1.5. So.
You have to leave. Can I log in and do it from here and share it? And so,
Yeah, you can share from your computer. You should be able to share, if you log into the Zoom,
okay,
you can share.
let me get there.
You just have to completely mute yourself, otherwise there's a kickback. All right, awesome, thank you.
Let me see if I can do that. I'm not even sure if I'm online, so give me,
Um,
okay, we'll see if it'll work.
yes.
Yeah, don't even connect to audio. You don't have to connect. To
Yep, no, understood. Um,
Sorry to interrupt there, but I just thought for others who are listening, it looks like we got a decent audience out there, and
Yeah,
we have the spreadsheet, but they don't
Yeah.
understand what we're saying.
appreciate it. Helped me out because it was kind of, I was trying to say, how do we, for people who don't have it in front of them?
Yeah.
How to explain, what it is. So
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Right. I have to go to historical commission. Sorry. Um,
Can John be the host? Can you switch
Yes.
John to the host?
Well, I'm just logging out now, so.
I won't be able to assign him as a host, I don't think. Let me see. No, but he should be able to share if he's logged into the Zoom.
Okay, all
Let
right.
me,
We're gonna leave this computer.
Yes.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have a host.
Maybe I'll be back quick.
Good luck.
Let's go into the same meeting.
let me, see if I can get this to share. Give me a minute. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, I just may want to increase the zooming in a little bit, John.
Well, I'm gonna actually move into the other sheets, so, actually, I think we want. So just to explain this, for folks, each of the sheets, have 12 of these boxes, and so this represents one, for example, and so area of the site. And then for each of the boxes, there are basically 3 levels of assessments that one can do, based on your assessment of that site. And then for each of those 3 levels, you can choose a point value, either between 1 to 3, 4 to 6, or 7 to 10. So I'm sorry, so let me take a step back. So for example, if you say, hey, I don't think the site has sufficient area, so you're in the first tier, so you get to choose between 1 and 3 points, depending on where you think it is. And then that gives you the total points. And then there are some of them have weighting factors associated with them that get added. So for example, if we look at the Pleasant Street one here and we say, oh, I think, the site doesn't have sufficient area. So let's say, for example, I give it a 2, it gives it a total of 3 points because it weights it by 1.5. Does that make sense? Can everybody see that? And everybody see how that worked?
And this was done separately for each one of the 3.
Right, so each, just so again, to explain what people have done here in Recalc, is each member took this spreadsheet, and for each of the sites, so for example, for the Pleasant Street site, they went through and they assigned points based on their assessment of these 12 criteria. And then they did that for the 3 sites individually. They did one for Pleasant Street, one for Oakland Road, and one for Simmons Way. And then at the end of the day, they got a total combined points, which was calculated by each of the individual sheets they worked on. And then they were able to add additional reviewer points with an explanation of what those would be. And then based on that, there was a final score and a final ranking.
And the reviewer points were a maximum of 20.
A maximum of 20 to each of the sites you could give. That's correct.
Yes. And so also people should know, we haven't seen each other's, so that a master thing hasn't been compiled as yet that we have seen. So we'll be, this will be new information that we'll be hearing. Okay.
All right, John, you want to just walk through each of these and get folks' feedback on each?
Yes, the area of the site, so just so people know, it says the site has sufficient area for the building, parking, and future expansion. That's 7 through 10. The site has sufficient area for the building, parking, but not future expansion. That's 4 to 6 points. And then the site has sufficient area for the building, but not parking or future expansion, 1 to 3. And the higher the total number after when you get done, that's the better, as opposed to a lower number. Okay, so area of the site for Pleasant Street. Anybody has any particular?
Yeah, so I rated them as a 4. The very bottom of sufficient area for the building, parking, but not future expansion. I think you would be taking that site, maximizing its use. I don't think it's got a lot of future area to go, so I ranked that a 4. And by comparison, I gave the others 10s.
I gave it a 4 as well. I thought it kind of meets the criteria, but not very much. So I thought it was a little bit better than a 3. If I could have given it a 3.5, I might have done that rather than a 4, but I settled in on a 4.
I gave it a 3. Because I didn't think it even has sufficient parking, even with the garage. So that was kind of also, I was concerned about the size of the building on that lot. You know, it would like take up everything and dominate, especially if they had the garage, you know, the gym. What that would do to that neighborhood, you know, it's just kind of like overwhelm it. And no green space. I mean, there wouldn't, you know, outdoor activities, green space, and certainly no expansion. So that was where I was coming from on that one.
And so you were a 3.
I was a 3.
Okay.
So that gave it 4.5.
John, what do you think?
Yeah.
So I was even harsher.
1.
I gave it a 2. And well, first and foremost, because there's not sufficient parking. It's clearly not sufficient parking, even for what they have today, and even with the garage, there's not sufficient parking. I also think the building's not really sufficient based on most of the reasons you just laid out, which is it's just going to be a monster of a building there. And, you know, it's not going to be, I mean, I think it's going to really affect the character of the existing building in a way that we're not going to be happy. And I think, you know, parking garage walls up against abutters is not a really conducive way to make the neighbors happy either. So I was not very positive on that. The other two, I thought they both fell into the top category, but I did differentiate. I gave Oakland Road a 7 and I gave Simmons Way an 8. And the difference being that I'm not entirely sure how much true expansion and other things you really could do at Oakland in general, not just because of the size, but because of the topography. So that's the only reason. And as far as Simmons Way, I didn't give it a 10 because I wasn't really sure what other pieces would be put in there. So I didn't know how much expansion we really could get, but I gave it credit for having some expansion as well.
I should have said, I gave 8 to both of the others. Clearly they have the parking. To me, to get a 10, I'm a hard marker. It's gonna
It'd
be very hard to get.
Oh my.
Yeah.
All right, Ron.
So I, like John, I gave Pleasant Street a 2. The parking, the design of that garage is horrible. Just the one way in, one way out, two entrances, just and no expansion. As well as taking into consideration the abutters to that garage, having a, you know, what used to be an open area for a window or something like that is now a wall, and no green space at all. So that was the reason for the two. Oakland Road, I was a little harsh on Oakland Road, actually. I gave it a 5. I think the traffic area over there, I took that into consideration for that. And then for Simon's Way, I gave it a 10. I just think it's the best place for a potential expansion in there. I'm not as a hard marker like you guys are.
Okay, so then we're at goes across. Impact on abutters. Sorry, about the other two. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Sure.
Do you want
Yes, why don't
to
we
hand those out?
Yeah. And.
So Mike Altman gave it a 2.
What did they give you this time?
10 and
10 for,
10 for both of the others.
okay.
Nora gave it a 3. A 5,
Well, which one?
Oakland,
Oakland.
and an 8 for, Simons.
We're very consistent, 2, 3, or 4 on
Yep.
Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, where I went. Okay,
Okay, all right. All right, impact on abutters. Who wants to go first on that?
I'll go first. I gave Pleasant Street a 2. Building design that was proposed is going to be very impactful on that area. To especially the 2 houses that will have the garages right next to them. So I gave them a 2. Oakland Road, I also gave it 2. There was this house behind there. Does that house stay or what? I yeah, I was pretty harsh on that one as well too. And then Simon's Way, I believe I gave it a 9. But there was a little bit of traffic going into that place.
I'll go. Okay, and impact on abutters. Oh, I gave a 3 to Pleasant Street. Like I said, I just thought, you know, when this would be having the garage and the gym, that what it would do as far as that wall that you talked about, as far as, you know, people now being able to see some green space, it all goes a wall. I thought that was if I lived there, I wouldn't not be happy. As far as Simon's Way, I gave that a 9. I thought that, you know, given where it's located, I think the issue there is going to be there'll be a traffic thing, but that comes later. As far as Oakland Road, I gave it a 3. That's clearly we've heard, and I'm sure we continue to hear from butters that is a problem. So that certainly influenced my mark there. Okay.
so I gave Pleasant Street a 6. I gave Oakland Road a 7, and I gave Simon's Way a 10. Mike gave Pleasant Street a 3, Oakland a 6, and Simon's a 10.
I gave Pleasant Street a 2. Not necessarily so much as it's going to be a whole lot different in many ways from what it is today, but the actual, again, going back to the building and the way it's going to be viewed from the abutting prop, I think is, and it will increase some with usage. I gave Oakland Road a 4. I don't, one thing that I don't think we incorporated here to some extent were impact of abutters during construction, which is maybe a little bit different than impact on abutters during operation.
That's a good point.
So,
It's raised by a
I
budget.
I just want to, say, I'm not entirely sure what, I think we still have a lot of, from an Oakland Road perspective, a lot of questions about what that really would look like, given some of the discussions that Joel gave us about whether things get pushed one way or the other and what sort of treescape is still able to be put up there. So I think there's open questions still with that. And I did give Simmons Way an 8 for that.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I'm trying to, Nora gave a 5 on Pleasant Street, 1 on Oakland, and 8 on Simon's Way. I gave a 5 also on Pleasant Street, a 1 on Oakland. And I was a little concerned about the abutters, where you're driving in that small area. So I gave a 6 on Simon's Way. You got those 2 houses and the daycare there, and I was a little bit concerned about them. So that's why I gave it a 6 rather than as high as I think other people did.
Folks, if you're online, could you mute yourself, please? Could you just all mute yourself? MB, can you mute yourself, please?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Ron?
I already went. Oh,
He's-
okay.
He started.
Okay, sorry.
Yep, I went.
Okay, traffic conditions.
I gave Pleasant a 5, Oakland a 5, and Simon's Way an 8. Mike Coltman gave Pleasant a 5, Oakland a 7, Pleasant and Simon's Way a 10.
I gave Pleasant Street a 5. I gave Oakland a 4. And I gave Simon's Way a 7.
Nora was 5, 6, and 5 in the order on the sheet. I was 5, 4, and 5.
I was 2 on traffic. Again, the garage design, I think that was going to be a major issue there. That was for Pleasant Street. For Oakland, I gave it a 4. And for Simon's, I gave it a 6.
Okay, I gave Pleasant Street a 6. I gave it Oakland Road a 6. And I gave Simon's Way a 5. Okay. Then parking quantity.
Mike gave Pleasant Street a 3, Oakland Road a 10, and Simon's Way a 10. I gave Pleasant Street a 4, Oakland Road a 7, and Simon's Way a 10.
Gave Pleasant Street a 2. I gave Oakland, again, this is for parking, right? Thanks. For quantity, I gave Oakland Road and Simmons Way both an 8.
Nora gave Pleasant Street 7, 3, I mean, and the other 2 7. I gave Pleasant Street a 3, Oakland a 6, and Simon's Way a 7.
Okay, I gave Pleasant Street a 3. I gave Oakland Road a 9. And I gave Simon's Way a 9. All
I
right.
gave Pleasant Street a 1. Oakland a 4. You think I don't like that design, right? I don't like that design. Oakland a 4. And Simon a 10. Because I think there could be room for expansion later on.
Okay. So location of parking.
I gave Pleasant Street a 7, I gave Oakland Road a 10, and I gave Simon's Way a 7, only because the spread. This was about 125 feet from the front door, and there were some spots that got pushed out. I gave it a 7
Huh?
on Simon's Way. Mike did 10 on Pleasant Street, 8 on Oakland, and 8 on Simon's Way.
Yeah, I kind of ran into the same question about exactly how to assess this one because it really was a very specific question about parking within 125 feet. So I gave Pleasant Street an 8, I gave Oakland a 6, and I gave Simon's a 4. Simon's Way, excuse me, a 4.
Nora was 7, 10, and 7 in that order. I was 10, 6, and 5.
Ron, I was 4, 7, and 10.
Okay, I was 8, 8, and 8. Wetlands and floodplains.
I did, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, no, go ahead, Mark, go.
I had Pleasant at 7, I had Oakland at 8, and I had Simon's Way at 3. And Mike had Pleasant at 10, Oakland at 10, and Simon's at 3.
Did Pleasant at 9, Oakland at 8, and Simon's Way at 6.
Nora is 10, 5, and 1. I was 7, 7, and 1.
I was 5 for Pleasant Street. They get some flooding today, so that's why I marked it a little bit lower. 7 for Oakland and 5 for Simon's Way.
Yeah, I was 6 for Pleasant, also mindful that it floods and we were gonna have persistence, they said. Yeah, so that was the reason why I did that. Oakland Road, I gave a 6. And I gave a 6 to Simon's Way. Okay, site construction cost.
I gave Pleasant Street a 1. I gave Oakland Road a 5. And I gave Simon's Way a 4. Mike had Pleasant Street at 2. Oakland at 4. And Simon's Way at 6.
Did I read this wrong? No, okay. I did Pleasant Street an 8. I did Oakland Road a 3. And I did Simon's Way a 4. And my rationales for those were that the site construction costs, the question here is impacted by topography, utilities, and other factors. Anyhow.
Yeah, I viewed other factors as demolition.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nora was 7, 1, 7. I was 4, 5, 5.
Okay, I was 7 Pleasant Street, 6 for Oakland Road, and 5 for Simon's Way.
I was 1 for Pleasant Street, 2 for Oakland Road, and 5 for Simon's Way.
Remind me never to take a class with you, Ron.
Yeah, well, so Simon's Way's got the, I think, if I remember correctly, they don't have utilities down there, something like that.
No, they don't, no, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, operational cost.
I had Pleasant at 5. Oakland at 10. And Simon's at 9. Mike had operational, let's see, Pleasant at 4, Oakland at 6, and Simon's Way at 6.
I did 6, 6, and 7 in that order,
Okay,
considering that these were related to is insurance, maintenance, landscape, garage repairs, that some of them kind of offset, like one site had more of one versus another site had the other, and kind of said it's a bit of a toss up there, without having more details, so that's kind of why they're all somewhat similar.
I had 2, 6 and 8. 2 for Pleasant, 6 for Oakland, and 8 for Simons.
Nora was 6, 4, and 5. I was 5, 6, and 5.
okay, I was 7, 7, and 8. So then now we're on the 9th one, which is facilities multi-generational use.
So I ranked Pleasant Street as a 2, Oakland Road as a 9, and Simon's Way as a 5. Mike was 4 for Pleasant Street, 10 for Oakland, and 7 for Simon's Way.
I was
I'll go.
2,
Yeah,
7,
John,
and
you go.
2, 7, and 7.
I was
Nora-
3, 8, and 9. Sorry, John. Apologize.
Nora was 5, 6, and 6. I was 5, 4, and 4.
I was 2, 10, and 4. The accommodates other outdoor activities.
I had Pleasant Street at 5, Oakland at 6, and Simon's at 10. And Mike had Pleasant at 2, Oakland at 10, and Simon's at 10.
That was Pleasant Street at a 1, Oakland at a 6, and Simmons Way at a 8.
I was 1 for Pleasant Street, 2 for Oakland Road, and 10 for Simons Way.
Nora was 4, 8, and 10. I was 1, 6, and 7.
Okay, I was 2 for Pleasant Street, then I was 7 for Oakland Road, and I was 7 for Simon's Way.
Sorry, I made a mistake. This is item number 9, right? Multi-generational use.
No, we're on 10.
We're on 10.
10.
Okay, all right,
10.
all right, never mind, I was right. 1, 6, and 8. Apologize.
Sustainability impact on design.
I had no idea. I ranked them all 5. And Mike did a 4 at Pleasant Street, and 8 at Oakland, and a 10 at Simon's Way.
I did 5, 7, and 7, and the only reason I did that is that I deducted points from the Pleasant Street, knowing that we're not going to be able to fully do that. That was the only difference that I pulled out there.
1, 4, and 9 for me.
Nora was 6, 4, and 5. I was 3, 5, and 6.
Okay, I was 5, 7, and 7. Just like that. The final one of the 12 was suitability for a senior center.
All right, I did 6 for Pleasant Street, 10 for Oakland Road, and 10 for Simon's Way. And Mike was 5 for Pleasant, 8 for Oakland and 8 for Simons Way.
I was 5 for Pleasant Street and 7 for Oakland and Simmons Way.
For me, 4, 8, and 9.
Nora was 5, 7, and 8. I was 3, 6, and 7.
I was 6, 8, and 8. Okay. The combined points, people wanna. And then also do the review and explanation. I think why we do all three.
So I ranked Pleasant Street 67.5 combined. Oakland Road 111.5 combined, and Simons Way 113. And I elected not to put on reviewer points, but instead to talk about what I thought was important. So Pleasant Street, I said least flexible, cost to demolish is high, some water issues. Oakland Road, great location, but requires change from natural habitat. Not sure of net zero. I'm not sure what I wrote after that because it got cut off. And then Simons Way, very flexible, but far from the beaten path for everyone except hockey and potentially future expansion. So I left I didn't offer different reviewer points as a result. I kind of stayed with what I built.
Okay.
Mike.
Oh, okay.
Pleasant was 61.5. Oakland was 116 and Simons Way was 120. For reviewer points, he pretty much matched kind of what those scores were, except Oakland Road he gave more points to. I can't read it because it didn't build right. There's something about impact on neighborhood. Pleasant Street, impact on neighborhood building would have major impact on abutters even without gym. Oakland Road, something campus with walking paths, many outdoor facilities, close proximity to schools and Y. Simons, something about other town amenities, wetlands can be a beautiful asset, but also liability. So his final scores changed ever so slightly. So Pleasant was 66.5, Oakland Road 131, and Simons Way 130.
You want me to go? I'll go. My combined points were 33 for Pleasant, 69.5 for Oakland, 121 for Simons Way. With the reviewer scores, final scores of 38, 79.5, and 141.
Wow.
With the senior center, having to move out of the senior center, I think that was going to be a major problem. Where were the seniors going to go for the next couple of years? The garage next to the abutters was a major problem. That was the main reason there. Based on a lot of feedback I heard from the neighborhood, the recent construction that I really didn't know a lot about was concerning. And then the increased traffic going there, especially with the middle schoolers and high schools in that area, and maybe seniors having a difficult time to navigate that area. And then, as you can tell, Simons Way is my clear favorite because I think there's an opportunity for the community to expand beyond the senior center as well too, with other things, especially potential outdoor activities for seniors as well.
Okay, Nora gave on the combined point 77.5 for Pleasant, 81.5 for Oakland, and 93.5 for Simons Way. Her final scores were 85.5, 96.5, and 103.5. On the explanation on Pleasant Street, she noted that the historical building was going to provide limitations, and they didn't believe the parking garage was going to be very conducive the way it was going to be set up. Her notes on Oakland were It's a large, she believes it's a large enough space, but issues with the butters and topography and traffic issues. Her notes on Simon's Way were wetlands, possible toxic materials, the gun range is a negative, and the traffic issue on the entrance. On mine, I had combined points of 70, 68 and 84. My total points were 78 for Pearl Street, 78 for Oakland, and 100.5 on Simon's Way. My feelings were somewhat the same as Nora's as far as the old building goes and some of the basic problems that we would have with renovating that. On Oakland Road, I'm still skeptical they can get that building in that area. And there's the issue of the ledge there. The only really downfall I had on Simon's Way was the possibility of contamination. Otherwise, I made the note that I thought it was clearly the best site.
You want to go?
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna go through these one at a time. There wasn't enough room in this box for me to write what I wanted, so I sent.
I wrote it out at the bottom.
I wrote an email. So, for Pleasant Street, I gave it a 64.5. And my comment was the Pleasant Street site represents a constrained site. And while one of the major pros is proximity to the downtown, the negative factors including inadequate parking, even with the garage, no real opportunity for outdoor activity space, the impact of the building to the abutters, and no opportunity for future expansion, at least as it's been developed thus far. And for that reason, I only awarded it an extra 5 points, so that was the 69.5 total. So for Oakland Road, I gave it 87.5. Some interesting, so we all got, I think we all got comments from abutters, and one of the questions was, well, tell me what the positives were. So I had actually already written this. So I said the positives for the site, including being able to fit the larger building footprint in the gym, adequate parking on site, and the opportunity for some outdoor activity space, whether it's pickleball or other. It could also offer some limited expansion, although that hasn't been explored. And lastly, the proximity to the high school does provide the opportunity for programs that cross generational lines, like giving the opportunity for high schoolers to volunteer at the center and whatnot. In terms of negatives, I mean, traffic obviously has been cited as one of the major concerns, given the prevalence of younger drivers on that road. There are limited sidewalks adjoining the properties. The topography is definitely a challenge, and while we have been given information that seems to indicate the extent of ledge work required, residents are quick and right to point out that similar issues were experienced at the water tower. And for those reasons, I only awarded an extra 10 points to Oakland Road, so that gives it 97.5. I did add a little caveat. If this site were to be selected, I would recommend further study of the topography to mitigate unforeseen costs, and a traffic study to determine if there are additional mitigations that would make this area safer. And I said it earlier, I said one other issue that's not included in this assessment is impact to abutters during construction. And that's a real concern that would need to be considered during the formal planning phase. Simmons Way, I keep saying Simmons, I apologize. Simon's Way, I ranked that at 98.5. I said positives for the site are consistent with the Oakland Road regarding the building and the parking. There's more outdoor space available, and it does appear that limited expansion is certainly feasible. The site is near the skating rinks, other little fields, and the rifle range. We got a lot of seniors that like to shoot guns, by the way. So there are some concerns about traffic given the Killam School project, but those challenges are different and less constrained than Oakland Road, at least in my opinion. There have been concern raised about potential contamination on the site. I think abutter issues are less of a concern. And while the site is close to proximity to wetlands, the building and the parking are located fully within what has been deemed as the buildable area. And so for those reasons, I awarded 15 points to the Simmons Way site, which gave it 113.5. I also added a caveat to this. If this were a site to be selected, I would recommend additional assessment be performed to determine if the extent of any contamination and mitigations, if any, that would be required. And assuming a traffic study is performed, it would need to include conditions that represent what a post-Killam construction condition might occur. Now, we might not be able to fully define that, but certainly that's something we should consider.
You already went, okay. Pleasant Street, I gave it a 69 combined points. Oakland Road, 102, and Simon's Way, 1035. I gave 5 reviewer points to Pleasant Street, 12 each to Oakland Road and Simon's Way. I said on Pleasant Street, insufficient parking, building too big for site, no outdoor activity space, no room for expansion. The 1+ was the central location. Oakland Road, I think the reason that I gave it as high as I did, despite all the problems with it, was possibility for intergenerational activities. And not just with the high school, you got, and also see, I'm a big believer it goes 2 ways. The seniors have something to offer. Both the high school
Good point.
students and, and
Good point.
kids of all ages. So that was a big thing with me. Also, near other recreational opportunities, I'm mindful of the fact that they're doing all that way, the walkway and everything that's going on across the way. Overflow parking possibilities, questionable, but possibilities. Negative, taking of trees, neighborhood opposition, traffic concerns at time due to conflict with schools' comings and goings. Simon's Way, room for expansion, outdoor activity options, especially pickleball, because I think that's the best location in town for it. Negative, traffic flow issues already exist at site, and noise from the rifle range can be disconcerting. Because having coached soccer there, I know all of a sudden, and maybe because it's weekends busier, when you're there and all of a sudden you hear boom, 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 it feels like it's right on top of you.
I heard from where I live.
Yeah.
It is.
So that'll fit right in with the pickleball. because-
Where I live, I'm never sure whether it's the Rifle Range or Camp Curtis Guild.
Ah,
Yeah.
The 2 of them are about equidistant from me.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think they shoot it. I don't think they shoot at Camp Goodrich Field anymore. I don't think they do. They used to.
Okay, so further discussion, now that, this is what we did at a point in time. We've heard what each other said. I was surprised at some things people said. They probably
So,
surprised something I said.
without seeing it all in front of me, but just listening to everybody's feedback and listening to the points and kind of putting it in my mind, it does seem like we kind of have the same trend in terms of how we're viewing the sites. At least that's my general
Yeah.
perspective. I would like to see everything all in one place because it obviously helps.
Right, Jenna said we all did them the same 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So I think basically Simon's Way was the number 1 choice, Oakland Road number 2, and Pleasant Street way behind.
Well, I mean, can we talk about that just for a minute? Because I know there was, at least in many of the meetings that I've attended with, at the Pleasant Street Center and talking to the seniors, I want to say it's kind of like this nostalgic view that we don't want to lose that
Right.
sight of that, but I think this kind of maybe a bit more objective view, does in fact say, well, okay, that's great, but it's just not gonna meet the things that you've been asking for, right? We want to make sure it's suitable as a senior center, but at the same, we want to meet all our needs, but you're basically trying to shoehorn it back into a site with a building that, to Mark's point, you're gonna have to have some destruction of, and who knows what that's gonna look like. I mean, I just think it's a tough sell, in my opinion. But forget about the other 2 sites for the moment. I'm just on that. I think that if we really are true to what our charter was, which is to try to come up with an approach for, an active living center that has some of these other components in addition to meeting the needs, I fear that the Pleasant Street site would just fall flat. And
I was gonna say, and the life cycle of it as well too. It's
Yeah.
like the day it gets built, it's
well,
adequate for the day it's built, but it may not be for the next 30 years.
well, and we heard from, I forget who it was that said it. I think I was trying to quote that someone said that, the seniors feel like they got short shrifted with the site to begin with. That they didn't get, what they thought they could have gotten, they should have gotten more to begin with, when they got put into the center as it is. So
There's
I
no
would-
doubt about that.
Right, well, we heard from the architect who worked on it. originally a center, he said he recommended that it wasn't a suitable location for a senior center.
Another thing that I think was important, because Mark's the one that pointed it out, I can't take credit for it. The fact that if we move out of Pleasant Street, then we've got a building at Pleasant Street that we can do something with.
Yeah.
Whether we put RCTV or something else in there, and I think the town just needs more property. And that's almost like giving us a second property.
Yeah, I think I would, so obviously I'm in agreement based on the scores in terms of what's going on. The things we lose, you lose being downtown. We gotta decide how important that
And there are
is.
definitely some people that
Right.
indicated that that's
Yeah,
an issue.
so that's kind of a piece of it. The nostalgia piece, I think, is a chunk of it. And, you know, look, could we with shoehorns and duct tape, you know, make everything work out to some extent? If that were the only choice, we would. But I think we have better choices.
Well, I have to say, and you know, if I haven't said it yet, I'll say it now. As a resident, I don't want to spend $6 million on a parking garage in downtown Reading. I'm sorry. I feel that's a bit irresponsible.
Especially that.
Yes, so Roger.
Especially that garage. So I'm,
One way.
yeah. So you know, people could shoot me for that statement, but I just have a hard time.
I think it's a good statement.
I was kind of surprised that Pleasant Street, my point system, you know, the point system being objective was so low. I didn't start out with saying, well, no way, Pleasant.
No, yeah.
I think the architectural design, as soon as I saw that, I said, oh my God. This is hard to see how this is gonna work.
So I do want to make a comment though to Mark's point about it not being downtown. You know, Recalc still has a responsibility, at least up until it sunsets, to make recommendations, not just about the center, but, you know, we talked about transportation. I mean, we, you know, both of these other sites are kind of far enough, I hate to say far enough out of the way, but they're not centrally located. And so even with the parking, you know, we're going to have to figure out what sort of additional transport needs are there and how do we fulfill those? And, you know, maybe it is some better regular shuttle service to downtown and to other locations that fulfill that need and have some sort of pickup routes. And maybe that can actually even help mitigate the total amount of parking. So we don't get, you know, such a asphalt jungle at these different places. So I do still think that is on the table for us to think about as we look at these particular places.
On the other thing that there really wasn't a place I didn't find to put any kind of like additional, I should have mentioned it as a positive, I guess, in two of them. The fact that you could have, what do you call it? The possibility of covering the parking lots with
Solar panels?
solar, just like at Stone Zoo.
Right.
You can't do it Pleasant Street, but to me, if you could do that and it would, the payback probably, you know, it would definitely pay for itself. How long it would, I don't pretend to be able to indicate, but I mean, that would be a plus too, to either one of the other
Plus, it's
locations.
a little bit more protected that way from elements.
Right, yes.
Just as a comment that probably doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but I was very surprised that my numbers on Pleasant Street and Oakland came out exact. If anybody had asked me which one of the two that I thought, I would have definitely had Pleasant Street at the bottom. But somehow the numbers just didn't reflect that. And exact, but they both came out 78 right on the nose.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was definitely a great exercise to go through and make you really think
Yeah.
about each location. It was a good exercise.
I think it was good that we all did it.
Yes.
That was the other point, is that by all of us doing it, even though our values were somewhat off here and there, you know, looking at conceptually, right, did they all kind of fall into the right order to some extent, but also, you know, kind of the ranges that make sense. I think they did.
Mhm.
I think the other thing to think about is that, so we're very restricted in terms of possible locations. We just don't have many choices. None of them are perfect. Every single one of them has warts and problems and concerns. No matter what, that's the way it's gonna be. the issue is kind of, figuring out where to take it next. Make sure that what we kind of felt here are most important individually may have been a little bit different, but they came out to be pretty much the same at the end, which is to me very interesting.
I was a little surprised that on the wetlands comment on Simon's Way, I'm not sure who had it, they really rated it low, because I thought the architect had said that where they were placing it there, it was an area that had already been outside,
Yeah,
the flood zone.
I had rated it lower than the other two, but I didn't rate it really low.
Somebody gave it
I think I gave it a 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I gave it a 3.
See, and
So it's not in it's, that area is not inside the wetlands boundary,
mhm.
but it's right next to it.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, any site that gets selected along those lines, they're gonna have to do their stormwater management and whatnot, that'll all get done as part of, so, that's the other thing to recognize, we're doing this, without having what I would consider to be a full site plan review behind all of these, right?
Correct.
And so without that, these are still, I think that's really important to let people know is that these assessments we're doing it based on the results of a feasibility study that gave us imperfect information. And that doesn't necessarily mean what we've done is imperfect either, or isn't exactly correct, but and it still can change. But, without actually having a real full-fledged, even with a full site plan, it's like when you go into your home and try to do something, you pull down the wall and say, wow, I didn't realize that was there.
Well, and like the slideshow that the, gentleman had presented earlier, Oakland Road, the area that was flooded there.
On the other side.
Yeah. Not surprising.
All right, step out.
Given that, there is a river go right
Step
nearby and Castine is underwater most of the time. It's not usable for anything else.
And we didn't completely factor in, I don't think, but maybe we talked about it in terms of getting utilities to Simon's Way. And
Yep.
thinking about infrastructure changes required to run Simon's Way.
He did have that. He costed that out.
Yeah, to some extent,
Yeah.
I get it, but the road is insufficient, the utilities are insufficient.
The road's definitely.
So
It's a lot to do
But
there.
he did two things that I thought actually improved that situation. One is by moving the building
Closer.
closer.
Yep.
I think it makes the utility issue a little easier. It doesn't, to your point, you still have to run more in there, but
Yep.
the road is still an issue because now you do have to do some more improvements to allow for in and out of that parking lot further down Range Road. So that's definitely something that's gonna have to be addressed.
I think the town also has to deal with, if we're gonna do anything there, the town has to deal with that whole intersection,
Mhm.
width of the road. There was a discussion of looping, potentially go in one way, out another. There's a lot of stuff that's gotta happen. So yes, I think there's some cost estimates that are in there. It is by Killam. It's gonna be a busy area. It's gonna need to have substantial improvement. So, just basically,
Yeah.
everything has warts, everything needs to be thought through further. But, I think we did a nice job so far, at least in kind of thinking about these things, thinking about them as sites.
Mhm.
Rather than the exact contents, but the sites and the opportunity on the sites based on the criteria that we identified.
I just do we want to open it up at this point to see if anybody who's on wants to have?
Before we do that,
Okay.
because I have to run it.
Okay,
I just want to get a sense of where we're going from here at this point. So I think have another
we have,
meeting.
we
scheduled.
don't, because that's been I didn't know that Jenna didn't send that information out. The COA is having their own meeting on the 16th. They don't want that to be a joint meeting,
Okay,
because that's going to be the equivalent of what we did tonight.
okay.
So it has to be after that.
So we need to find another.
Right, and I'm concerned about town meeting.
Town meeting is the following week.
Right, and Passover for some people, so I don't wanna, so basically, I think we're into May. If that's.
I'm gone the first week in May.
Oh, okay.
I'm gone at first, yeah, pretty much the first week of May. I'm in North Carolina.
When you say first week in May, would it be including the 30th of April or the week after that?
I'm flying out on, hold on, look at my calendar.
I fly out May 2nd, if that makes any difference.
I fly out on. I'm flying on Tuesday.
That's the 30th, right?
That's the 30th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go straight from town meeting to the airport. So,
I have a conflict, but how about the 24th of April?
Town meeting's the next night.
Yeah. And 2 nights before as well.
I have to tell you, personally, doing, multiple nights in a week that is hard for me.
I don't blame you.
If that's the only, if that's the only time, then I'll do it, but,
Hey, what do you think it is with me? Nancy calls a meeting about every 10 minutes.
Put that in the minutes, Ron.
So I think we do need to have that joint meeting. I think we also need to think about when we think we can have a recommendation for the select board and when to block out time with the board. We talked originally about the latter part of May.
Right.
Well, so the meetings in May are what dates? 7th and 21st?
7 and 21.
It'll be 21.
And the election's the
Election's the 14th. It has to be the 21st.
Well, so the 21st, if we don't meet until early May as a joint meeting, are we really gonna have our act together in time for the 21st?
No,
All right, so what we were saying.
And let me just
24?
add,
Okay.
so hang on, and then the 21st, so there are other activities in town, so I know that the Killam project, I believe, is reporting to the school committee on the 20th. And they requested possibly the 21st to the select board.
of May.
Of May. But the board kind of realized that maybe we need to separate things a little bit, so.
I gotta step out. I'll be back.
So I just want to kind of put that into the mix of when we might have our meetings, when we might be ready to make a recommendation and when we can take. it
I mean,
forward.
so next week COA is meeting. The
Right,
17th is in a butters meeting, which I would like to hear some more feedback at that point. I really would like, if it's at all possible, for us to meet the week of the 20, like that 24th. I mean, I know the 25th is the first day of town meeting.
so I'm sorry, what, and
I mean, the suggestion you made, the 24th of Wednesday, I would be. I mean, I think we should, if we have any hope of having, because what basically my expectation is that on the 24th. I'd like, because we're gonna have to reconcile any different, I say differences, but reconcile our thoughts around what it is how it is we want to position and present this, and then. The next week or two we can use to kind of put things together. And then have a follow-up meeting the week of the 8th. Potentially. And then if that's the case, then we can actually plan to get on the 21st if the board meeting is available.
so if it was the 24th, would that work for you, John?
I think it would.
Ron, does that work for you? 24th?
The 24th works for me, yep.
And you said yes.
I will carve out 6:30 to 8 on Wednesday night.
So I have a conflict, and I'll see if I can, it's another meeting, I'll see if I can ask them to reschedule.
We have to ask John if he's okay with that.
Right,
Because he is right, Thursday's town meeting.
yep. Okay, so if we did that, if that could work. And that would be the joint meeting, right? Right,
That would be a joint meeting.
and then we'd need to look into that first week in May, and you're gone, John, but could you join on Zoom?
Probably. Yeah, I'll be with my daughter. She can figure it out.
Okay. And
I'm
you're not
at a trade
available.
show. I'm gonna be, I can't make any commitments when I'm in front of customers, so.
So what are we looking at?
So we're we wanted to petition you about Wednesday, the 24th for the joint
Okay.
meeting.
All right.
I'm sorry, that would be a joint meeting?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We have to ask
Matter of-
Kenner and COA if they can.
Yeah, so I had actually spoken with Nancy about that week, but yes, we have to check with them. But I think there's, everyone's feeling the desire to move this ahead.
Okay.
So we could maybe check that date. So just to be clear, so then we are not meeting 16th, that's not happening.
That's not happening.
We recalc, not the 16th of
No.
April.
Right.
Okay, so let me delete that right now, delete. Okay, that's gone.
No, but Jenna said that she posted for recalc on the 17th.
Yes,
So
Yes,
butters meeting.
that was.
the butter meeting, which I think is smart.
yeah, and
Yes.
COA is posted as well. Yep.
Okay.
All right, so if we did the 24th, then we probably should kind of, let's do a little planning. So what would be next? We would want to meet the next week, right? Because
Yes.
we need to kind of get our act together in terms of a recommendation. So the week of the 29th of May, so we still. Man,
Oh, you don't mean
No.
29th of May, you mean
no, I'm too far ahead. Hang on.
April.
Nope,
So
so
it would-
I'm
yeah, that's-
thinking, so 24th of April, so the next week would be the 1st of May, which is difficult for a lot of folks.
Yeah, two are
That week
definitely
is
out,
difficult.
But
yeah.
I won't be there.
So how about the week of the 6th?
Can we do
I
the 8th?
can't do the 6th. I can't do the 7th. I could do the 8th.
The 8th is,
It's a Wednesday.
On Wednesday,
okay.
that would
Uh,
work for me.
So we plug that in for now, Wednesday, the 8th?
Okay.
I should be back by then. I think I come back on the 7th.
Are we doing the 6:30 or the 7th? We know.
I need to do 6:30 because I have hard
Okay.
stops at basically 8 o'clock, so.
Okay.
Works. Thank you.
And for those, so now is it? All right, so then we can, I'm gonna open it up now to anyone.
But well, we're still in this, so we're not gonna meet with the COA on the 16th.
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm under the COA schedule, now.
Right, because that was at Nancy's suggestion.
But we are meeting with them on the 22nd.
24th.
24th.
She's got it on the 22nd.
Yeah, 22nd doesn't work for a variety of reasons.
So we have to reconcile that with
We
you.
need to check with her
You
about
check with Nancy on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just before because I'm gonna run shortly.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure if Jenna does have this stuff put together, just to send it out.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually,
So, but accumulated,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
yep. So I hope maybe Joel's already done that, which would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure from what she said whether he might be waiting until they had the COAs as well as ours, but we want to have.
Yeah, there's no reason to wait. Hopefully they've already built a spreadsheet and they can just pull it in. If not, yeah, I'll do it.
We'll sort it out.
We'll probably read about it in the paper in a month.
You can tell us.
Okay, all right. Yes.
It's Mark Delaney.
Mark?
Good evening.
Good
How
evening.
is everybody? I have
We're
a
good
process question.
Yes,
When does this matter go to the CPDC and the Permanent Building Committee?
okay, they've already been informed, at least I know the Permanent Building Committee has, that something was, about what's been going on and everything, and that it'll be going to them. I'm assuming that it's after there's a recommendation.
Well, yeah, I think this is a question for
So,
Mark.
yeah, so I've spoken with the chair of the Permanent Building Committee, shared the feasibility study. And I believe their intention is to put it on their next agenda to gather input so that would be before any conclusions were reached by us.
Okay.
That we'd have their input added to that.
Okay,
One other point I think just to mention is, so this group is gonna sunset as of the 30th of June. And not speaking too far out of school here, but I think there will be, assuming we do move forward with some sort of a recommendation, there will be a new kind of recal building committee form that will shepherd it through the rest of the process.
So tentatively on the select board agenda for the 21st is the recommendation from us and a discussion by the select board of forming a building committee, which would likely be comprised, as the school one is, the permanent building committee in its entirety, plus 1 to 2 of the sponsors, essentially. So it's defined as the permanent building committee and then 1 or 2 of the people from the sponsor, sorry.
No, that's fine. And just a last comment, I don't believe this project would go in front of CPDC as a town project. Is that a correct statement, or do you know what the process is for that?
I don't know the process.
I mean, I know it would still get reviewed from a DRT perspective and all that stuff, but I just don't think it's a CPDC. Because it's a town municipal project, it's handled differently, but that's something that I wouldn't. I just know that we didn't, when I was on CPDC, we didn't do municipal project reviews, so I don't think it would go to CPDC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the hard part here is that we don't have the same roadmap that, say, the school project does, which is defined by the reimbursement program and all the
Right.
other things going on.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure it out on our own, which means probably we're gonna hit the guardrails every once in a while along the way.
Yeah.
So any help from the community as well as all of us obviously is greatly appreciated.
Can I follow through on my question?
Sure.
So, I mean, even John Sasso raised some issues about potential zoning issues, ledge. The water tank went through both the CPDC and the Permanent Building Committee. That's, even though John is right that town projects on town land are not subject to town rules. But the fact is, the practice has been,
Yes.
at least on our experience, is that those projects go through the process. So I don't see why we would skip the Permanent Building Committee, because this would be a permanent building, especially if it's new, or even if you renovate the old.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
should go through CPDC, because they have the expertise. All you've got to work with right now is a recommendation by a consultant. And and John's mentioned one of them, there are some flaws in this report that, I'm not gonna talk about now, because I think the appropriate place to have that discussion is before the CPDC and the Permanent Building Committee. So I was expecting that would be part of this process, but I'm hearing now that you don't intend to do that.
No, permanent building committee is
Every
definitely.
building is by charter required, not even a question.
Okay, fair enough.
And
Why
the
are we
architect's
avoiding
assumption
this?
was, assumption was that it would go before the zone, even though it didn't have to. That in fact that it would.
Okay, but all I've heard is that the Permanent Building Committee will get a look at this, but not the CPDC.
No, what I said, I don't know what the process will be. If we do decide, if the town has a policy of going through CPDC, even for municipal projects, to your point, they do have the expertise and they see these all the time. Then that's certainly something I think we should honor. The other process is that once this gets out of feasibility and we do actually get to the point of a permanent building committee and a project manager is hired, the same project and process that we've used for the other projects I can only say I assume would be followed. I just from the perspective of requirements, I guess that's all I was saying, but if that's what we've done in the past, then I think certainly that makes sense.
But there's no intention to have any kind of special process.
No.
Yeah, it would just seem to me, you have a design from a consultant, right? You still have to go out to bid on this.
Oh, there's a
Before
lot.
you put anything out to bid, you would have the appropriate bodies in the town review the matter, so you have got a perfected plan that you could actually go out to bid with.
So Mark, just understand this, I would say we do not have a design today. What we have is a assessment of sites with some information that will help guide a decision about whether or not A, we want to even move forward with this, and B, if we do, where the best appropriate place might be to go with it. there's the remaining aspect of the work that this feasibility study is intended to do is to actually go to the next step, which is to do some detailed design, which would then give folks that have the expertise the opportunity to really look at this. Because you're right, we don't have all of that expertise there, and there's not enough information that's been developed to really assess it at that level. So I mean, just want to be clear where we are in the process. We are not there yet.
Okay,
And-
you know, because I did hear, I didn't hear the permanent building committee, but I heard a recommendation and then to the select board. I don't think this should be going to the select board before you have perfected a plan to send to town meeting. That's,
So hang on, there's a process, hang on. So to come back to John's point. What this is a site recommendation to the select board. From there, the next step will be to do schematic designs, very similar to what's going on with the school program, so that you actually have a fully laid out plan with all these different ideas. As part of that activity, Recalc disappears, backseat, whatever you want to call it. The PBC, the Permanent Building Committee, would take over the building side of those activities at that point, assuming that's what the select board does. They're only after that process is completed, is it ready to have a discussion with town meeting and then eventually the voters. But right now, the only thing going on is looking at sites, not what's going on the site or all the other things yet. That's the next phase that this consultant has already been hired to do. And
Yeah.
the PBC, let me just say one more thing. The PBC, one of the roles of the PBC not a role. One of the things we'd like to do is before this group makes a recommendation on site, is that the PBC, that does have completely different and broader expertise than we do, has had a chance to review, weigh in, take a look, add, subtract, whatever. Before it moves to a recommendation to the board, to the select
okay.
board.
Maybe this is nostalgic. The temporary cell tower was finally removed today, right? So I've been through 2.5 years of construction on the site right next to my house. So, you know, I'm sensitive to folks that live in that area of what a construction project, especially a public construction project, which normally come in over budget and over time. It's the nature of the beast. But what I thought I'm not trying to give you a hard time, Mark, but what you said was depends on what the select board does. So does that mean the select board could possibly remove that part of this process and send this right to town meeting? Or
No.
and you mentioned the charter requires. Yeah, I think it's important for the experts that we have in the town to review this project, whether it's Simon's Way, it's Oakland Road, that expertise and an opportunity to critique. Because again, I see some serious flaws in what's been presented already.
So, I don't think we're disagreeing at all. I think that where we are in the process, however, is that to do schematic designs, to actually dig into the details, we need to have a site that gets recommended and the select board has to say, move forward to the next step with that. There is not anything that could be brought to town meeting at this point on any of these ideas. There's nothing there. There are, as you said, estimates from a consultant without having done any more in-depth work. That's what we have. And truthfully, I don't think that there's agreement in the community yet about exactly what things would encompass. That is kind of the next step after a site is selected. And where we are is bring to the board a recommendation. Our charter for Recalc was to bring forward a recommendation on site to the select board that would accommodate the needs of the 60+ community and potentially other things beyond. No more. That's
Yeah.
the next step is literally there to understand, okay, if this is the place, here are the things that we could do. What else do we need to know to make sure we've got that? The Permanent Building Committee already had a chance to talk a little bit about site, but now they can talk more about project. And that's something that they'd be running because they have the expertise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the input, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else?
Jen Riley.
Jen Riley, okay.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi, so I'm on Beacon Street, so I'm considered an abutter for the Oakland Road location. And I
Mhm.
just wanted to actually say thank you, and I appreciate you acknowledging the people that have written in and discussed their concerns about the site. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. I really do feel that Oakland Road is just, it's not safe for the seniors. You're talking about all that traffic. You're talking about overflow parking into the schools, them crossing the street. That's the lack of sidewalks, or just even, walking around that area, it could be very dangerous. And I feel like the seniors are kind of getting lost in the whole project of this, because it was originally just for them until the community center started. So I just wanted to make that point of the safety of the seniors for this. Also, I know they talked about the multi-generational mingling, which would be a good idea for Oakland Road, but also the flip side to that is that, once school is out, the kids can just walk over to the community center, and that could be intimidating on the flip side of it for seniors, to have it overrun with all the kids from all the schools, the 3 schools that are there. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that there is another side to it as well, that they could be intimidated.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jen,
Any-
can I just answer
Sure.
to that part there?
Sure.
So Jen, the design of the building was such that it would be separated. It would not be commingled when programming for seniors was going on. So it would be like a separate entrance for the community to come in, and it would not come. We made that pretty clear during our design discussions and considerations with the folks. And that's if it's at Pleasant Street, Oakland, or even Simon's Way as well too.
Okay, but I mean, even like outside, like on the grounds of the building, there, a lot of kids could be hanging out and things like that. So
Yep, we hear you.
That's
Yep.
true. Yep, that's
Yeah.
true. Yep.
yeah, no,
Yep. I just want to talk inside the
I
building. though.
appreciate you, telling me more about the design and how it is. I do appreciate that, but yeah,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Deanna, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name.
Hi, this is actually her husband, Justin. I want to first of all say thank you to everyone for all of your hard work and for listening to the concerns of the abutters, which includes us. But one thing I was curious about, and maybe I'm just a little bit late in catching up on this, is sort of how we got to these 3 sites, locations, and like
Okay, that's kind of an easy one.
one of the things that I was like wanted to ask is like, has anyone considered alternatives such as like entering into like a long-term lease with the old Reading Athletic Club site to solve for the desire to provide active living stuff and keeping the senior center as well? Like, have we considered all those things? Am I just late to the game? Just looking for some history.
Yes, they have talked specifically to the landlord for the Reading.
Yeah,
He has no interest
yeah.
in renting or selling or doing anything with the town at this point vis-a-vis that property.
And just to expand on that, the Fidel, the prior town manager, earlier in this process, we actually sent out an RFP to the business community at large, looking for other potential sites and areas where we could do either a short-term or a longer-term, either additional location or a separate location. It's actually how the whole potential downtown Walgreens site option came into play. So I think we'd be happy to give you some more background on that, but if I would ask that we'll give other folks an opportunity. But yeah, those areas unfortunately have been exhausted, and we were kind of left with very limited sets of potential opportunities for this to go in the community. But it's always something that we keep our eyes out for. We did look at a couple of other sites like the old Brooks on Haven Street, and a few other places amongst that. So there have been a lot of reviews of different places and trying to see if we could solicit other options. And unfortunately, we came up empty.
Right, and that's why we were left with just what property the town already owns.
I appreciate that. My only other comment would be to be in opposition of the Oakland Road site. I think that's too ambitious of a project to put in that space. And I think there's significant ledge there. And there's also some like ephemeral waterways there that are important to, you know, the natural habitat in the area.
Yeah, we definitely hear you on that. Okay,
Thank you.
anyone else? Okay. And there are also, just so you know, the Council on Aging is also involved in this process as far as, and we hope to come up with.
They're doing an open house on Thursday, tomorrow night?
Right, yeah,
Tomorrow or is it tomorrow night?
tomorrow, 6 to 8.
So they're doing a 6 to 8 tomorrow night open house to review the current situation at the Pleasant Street Center. Also doing it on the 27th. So I think the notices are on the COA part of the website. So by all means, if you haven't gone down to look at it,
Yeah.
you should.
It's a chance to get a tour and to have some discussion about kind of what the needs are, why it's important that we act here and do something.
And we certainly, you know, encourage, you know, our butters to be showing up to the meeting next week.
Yes,
The
on the
17th.
17th, and there will be another meeting that I'm looking to schedule with Joel from BH Plus A, because we've received some feedback that people have a difficult time getting here, so we'll have another one virtually. And then we made the one next Wednesday also virtual. At first it was just in person, but now it's also a virtual option, so.
So just to be clear, it's a butters meeting to be able to listen to the presentation from the architect
Yes,
and also to give feedback.
yes, yes, yep.
All right. So Jenna, we're all done. We made the decision. We're all set. So no, only kidding.
Okay, so let's recap everything.
Um,
10 action items for Jenna.
yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, so Ron Asini?
Yes.
So motion to adjourn, okay. John Sasso?
Yes.
John Parsons?
Yes.
Mark Dox?
Yes.
And John O'Neill, yes. Meeting adjourned, thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
folks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming in.
Jenna, we just have a meeting. We set up a meeting for,
We're,
I'll put it in the notes, but John, you want to tell everyone the
Please
meeting?
come get involved with government project.
We always need help.
Thanks, everyone.
we're aiming for the 24th for the joint
Is this meeting already over?
Yes, it's over.
Oh, geez. Oh, okay, the link is still open and working, so geez, I'm sorry. I can't keep up with all the meeting changes. All right, well, I'm sorry I missed it. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Check the recording.
Yeah, when is it available?
It's usually in RCTV, so it should be available on our site.
Okay, great, thank you.